bubbles as the water has, and these are of them. Whither are they vanished?
Into the air. And what seemed corporal melted as breath into the wind.
Would they had stayed? Were such things here as we do speak about? Or have we eaten on the insane root that takes the reason prisoner?
Thus Banquo, skeptical at this point, amused even. But Macbeth, completely taken in, avid to know more. Would they had stayed. And now 2 messengers arrive, bringing extraordinary news. Macbeth has been named Thane of Cawdor. The reactions of the 2 men are revealing.
Do you not hope your children shall be kings? When those that gave the Thane of Cawdor to me promised no less to them.
That trusted home might yet enkindle you into the crown, besides the Thane of Cawdor. But 'tis strange. And oftentimes, to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths. Win us with honest trifles. To betray us in deepest consequence.
Thus Banquo warns Macbeth, but he is also warning himself. The witches have prophesied that his children shall be kings. His ambition, like Macbeth's, is now set on fire, yet he is cautious. The next exchange between them, of only 5 lines, is packed with meaning.
Think upon what hath chanced, and at more time, the interim having waited, let us speak our free hearts, each to other.
Very gladly.
So then enough. Come.
When next we see them together at Macbeth's castle, the murder of the king is a certainty. Macbeth has determined to bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. It is night. We see Banquo and his son Fleance. Soon they will meet Macbeth on his way to murder the king. Does Banquo suspect? The lines in Banquo's character lend themselves to this interpretation. Banquo, troubled by his conscience, tortured by some strange premonition, yet playing a waiting diplomatic game.
How goes the night, boy?
The moon is down. I have not heard the clock.
And she goes down at 12.
I take this later, sir.
Oh, take my sword. There's husbandry in heaven. Their candles are all out. Take that too. A heavy summons lies like lead upon me. And yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers, restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. Give me my sword. Who's there? A friend? What, sir? Not yet at rest? The king's abed. All's well. I dreamt last night of the 3 weird sisters. To you they have shown some truth.
I think not of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business. If you would grant the time.
At your kind's leisure.
If you shall cleave to my consent when 'tis, it shall make honor for you.
So I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and allegiance clear. I shall be counsel.
Good repose the while.
Thanks, sir. The like to you.
Notice it was Banquo who first broached the subject uppermost in each man's thoughts. He has dreamed of the weird sisters. Analyze his words. Are they sincere or deliberately ambiguous? He says he must keep his allegiance clear. His allegiance to whom? Macbeth murders the king. The murder is discovered. Banquo cannot fail to suspect Macbeth, but he holds his tongue. Why? When we next see him, Macbeth is king, and Banquo is now certain of his guilt. But despite this, he has remained at Macbeth's court, his chief guest, his principal advisor. Again, why? He makes this clear as he muses on what has happened.
Thou hast it now. King, Cawdor, Glamis, all as the weird women promised. And I fear thou playedst most foully for it. Yet it was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. If there come truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why, by the verities on thee made good, may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope?
But Banquo, the courtier, the compromiser, is not to be set up in hope. At least he will not live to realize his hopes. For Macbeth's fears in him now stick deep. Banquo, he concludes, must be plotting against him. And so he and his son Fleance must die. But Macbeth, his doubts and fears rising, now turns his thoughts to the one other man he considers a present threat to his power, Macduff. Macduff's reaction to the murder of King Duncan was precisely the opposite of Banquo's. Shortly after the murder, he and Ross, another nobleman, discuss it in terse, dramatic phrases.
Good Macduff, is't known who did this more than bloody deed?
Those that Macbeth hath slain.
Alas the day. What good could they pretend?
They were suborned. Malcolm and Donalbain, the king's two sons, are stolen away and fled, which puts upon them suspicion of the deed.
Against nature still. Thriftless ambition that will raven up thine own life's means. Then 'tis most like the sovereignty will fall upon Macbeth.
He's already named and gone to Scone to be invested.
Aye. Where is Duncan's body?
Carried to Cumkill, the sacred storehouse of his predecessors and guardian of their bones.
Will you to Scone?
No, cousin. Out of Fife.
With Macduff, the arch-patriot, there can be no question of compromise. Although King Duncan was not particularly gracious to him, still Duncan was Scotland's king, the Lord's anointed. Macduff used this phrase when he discovered Duncan's body. Like Banquo, he too suspects Macbeth, but unlike Banquo, Macduff flees to England to cast his lot with a man he now considers to be God's representative on earth, the legitimate heir to Scottish power, Malcolm, Duncan's son. But here, Macduff learns from Ross, who has recently deserted Macbeth, the harrowing price he has paid for his loyalty to a principle.
My children, too.
Wife, children, servants. All that could be found.
They must be from thence. My wife killed too.
I have said, be comforted. Let's make us medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief.
He has no children. All my pretty ones. Did you say all? Oh, hell kite! Oh, what 20 chickens and their dam in one fell swoop.
Dispute it like a man.
I shall do so. But I must also feel it like a man. I cannot but remember such things were that were most precious to me. Did heaven look on would not take their part. Sinful Macduff, they were all struck for thee. Not that not for their own demerits, but for mine, fell slaughter on their souls. Heaven rest them now.
Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not your heart, enrage it.
Oh, I could play the woman with mine eyes and braggart with my tongue. But, gentle heavens, cut short all intermission. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself. Within my sword's length set him. If he escape, heaven forgive him too.
Later we see Macbeth. In contrast to the iron determination of Macduff, Macbeth is tortured by a sense of futility, which he pours forth in one of the greatest soliloquies on all of Shakespeare's plays. The speech is a fascinating one in many counts. When Macduff was told of the brutal murder of his wife and children, he could scarcely speak. His sorrow could find no words. But when Macbeth learns that his wife is dead, his vivid imagination invents a brilliant succession of poetic images, all pointing to the utter meaninglessness of life. The speech is not, as some critics maintain, a purple passage. It is in complete harmony with Macbeth's character, in its infinite weariness, its self-wounding fury. The Queen, my lord, is dead.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. The last syllable of recorded time. All our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. There's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Now the stage is set for the final meeting of Macbeth and Macduff. The play must move forward now at top speed, cutting short all intermission, to the climactic moment when Macbeth is within Macduff's sword's length. Symbolically, two antagonistic principles of the drama meet. Physically, the two greatest warriors, as Macduff's terrible challenge echoes across the field of battle.
Turn, hellhound, turn!
Of all men else, I have avoided thee. Now get thee back. My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already.
I have no words. My voice is in my sword.
So Macbeth is killed. He would not yield. He would try the last. At the beginning of this film, I put forward the question, what is the chief theme of Macbeth? What was Shakespeare saying? What comment on humanity, on the human condition was he making? One theme, which you might consider as you read the play, certainly seems to emerge. In Lord Acton's words, power tends to corrupt, absolute power corrupts absolutely. On the other hand, there is another theme that must be considered.
Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matter.
There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face.
For none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
Nothing is but what is not.
Lesser than Macbeth and greater. Not so happy, yet much happier.
Away and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know.
Contradictions, seeming truths, concealed meanings, double meanings. Nothing is but what is not. The tragedy of Macbeth is full of such lines, and they are not there by accident. From the very first moment, with a weird incantation,
Fair is foul and foul is fair.
we are in a world in which appearances cannot be trusted, in which seeming truths hide the opposite of what they portend. The chief characters, by following courses of action which would seem to lead to their own ends, good or bad, are, in Banquo's words, betrayed in deepest consequence. Scotland itself, recently threatened by a most disloyal traitor, now seems secure. Signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. And yet, it is about to suffer an even heavier blow. Duncan, Scotland's king, seems noble, clear in his great office, a father figure. And yet, in some ways, as we have seen, he can be interpreted as wayward, tricky, a father who cannot, in the final analysis, be trusted. Macbeth, Scotland's greatest nobleman, held in golden opinion by everyone. Yet, within, unseen, his thoughts make his seated heart knock at his ribs. But what of Lady Macbeth? It is too easy, perhaps, to see in her only the dissembler, the monster. Easy to consider her, in Malcolm's words, fiend-like, or in Samuel Johnson's words, merely detested. She is certainly, except for one notable lapse, expert in concealment, as, for example, when she greets the king. This occurs shortly after her terrible invocation to the murdering ministers, in which she determines to convince Macbeth to take the nearest way to the crown, the murder of King Duncan, whom she now graciously welcomes under her battlements.
See, our honored hostess. The love that follows us sometime is our trouble, which still we thank as love. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God yield us for your pains and thank us for your trouble.
All our service in every point twice done, and then done double, were poor and single business to contend against those honors, deep and broad, wherewith your majesty loads our house.
Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly, and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess.
Courtly, well-turned phrases, but empty of meaning, perhaps on both sides. Duncan has just made his son the next king, but he cannot be ignorant of the fact that the woman who now walks beside him once had ambitions to be queen. What he does not suspect, nor do the members of his court, is the illness that attends her ambition.
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which will be worn now in their newest gloss. Not cast aside so soon.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself, and it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I count thy love, Art thou fear to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteem'st the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem? Letting I dare not wait upon thy wood like the poor cat of the adage.
Lay peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was there that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. No time nor place did then adhere, yet you would make both. They have made themselves. And that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail...
We fail. Screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him. His two chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convinced that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only. When in swinish sleep their drenched natures lie as in death, what cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
Bring forth men, children only. For thy undaunted mettle should compose nothing but male.
Thy undaunted mettle should compose nothing but males. Lady Macbeth speaks of the entrance of the king under my battlements. She plans the murder. Leave all the rest to me, she says. She is at this point a figure to inspire awe, even terror. And any production of this play, I suggest, must stand or fall in large measure with her casting. Her undaunted mettle, as Macbeth tells her, should bring forth men, children only. But she must be feminine, even delicate. They are man and woman, husband and wife. They love and trust each other. And Lady Macbeth believes with all the single-mindedness of her being that her husband should be king. It is his legitimate right, and she will be his dearest partner of greatness. That is one central fact about her. There is another. I have said that Macbeth is imaginative. He has in some ways the imagination of a poet. But Lady Macbeth has little imagination. This has been pointed out by several critics, notably A.C. Bradley. Or to put it another way, she has enough imagination to plan the murder, but not enough to realize what it will mean. To her, it is a simple matter. One mere man is to be killed, and this shall bring happiness and fulfillment to all their nights and days to come. Thus, Macbeth is convinced. He murders that man, the king. But mark now their reactions.
This is a sorry sight.
Foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
One little half in sleep, and one cried murder, but they did wake each other. I stood and heard them. But they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
There are two lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us.
Do it not so deeply.
Wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing. Amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways. So it will make us mad.
Methought I heard a voice cry, weep no more. Macbeth doth murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. The death of each day's life, sore labour's bar, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. The arms of murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried? Worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain sickly of things. Take some water and wash this filthy witness from your hands. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go. Carry them. And smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. Afraid to think what I have done. Look on again, my death.